So, oh, there he is. Yeah, yeah.
Greg, now Humphrey thinks you played for Australia, but I think Humphrey's wrong because we've got Greg Phillips. I think he's thinking of Greg Matthews and Wayne Phillips. You
Oh,
see
that's it. I've
see where I'm coming
conflated
from,
it.
Humphrey?
Yeah, I've conflated
I
the
fucking
two.
told you he doesn't
I'm
play for
sorry.
Australia. It's
No.
Wayne fucking Phillips and Greg
Wayne
Matthews.
Phillips.
Never did.
I'm very sorry. Yeah,
Never did.
yeah.
Greg, just before we start, you do write for Australian Musician, don't you?
That's right. That's correct.
So what the fuck are you doing interviewing us? That's the question. That's the question, I'm afraid, Greg. Well, it's Australian musician. Australian adjective. Musician, right? That's the noun here, right? Well, we are only 50% relevant to that title.
Well, it's music, art and music go together. You've got a new album called Death to Art. Explain that.
Well, it's a misprint, Greg. It should be deaf to art, DEAF to art, but you just can't get good help these days in the printing world. Magazines are dying out and the profit's low, and what can you say? But I think
it was another Tism fart joke when you think about it, Humphrey, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. And in fact, really, the correct title for the album should have been Duct Tape Banana. Duct Tape Banana is really sort of our association with art. We are duct tape that forces the banana against the wall, that causes somebody to bid, 5.2 million US, and calls it art. We are very much the duct tape of music, which I perhaps, I need to think that through, Greg,
Perhaps
because that
should have been called.
That implies that we're somehow useful, doesn't it? Maybe we're more like two-sided sticky tape, seemingly useful when you're contemplating buying it, but fucking annoying once you get home.
That's right.
Can't actually make it work.
Yes, I believe you were just talking to Paul at Noise 11. Was he throwing too many facts and figures at you?
No, he was pissed off that your interview this morning went 10 minutes over, so he had to wait. Yes, that was the problem. He thinks you're a mate. He thinks you're a right. He's a two-faced bastard, that fucking Paul. He can lose a few pounds too. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Are you the Scion? I don't know if that's a correct pronunciation. The Scion of the giant Dutch electronics company.
No, it didn't play for us.
Okay.
And
that's fine. Are you the man that invented the strange-headed screwdriver?
Yes. Now you approach.
Now I'm getting more.
Humphrey.
I think I'm getting more.
He's a modest guy.
Yeah. I really like that. I think the way you did that, Greg, it was pretty much like the Betamax versus VHS, war.
Yeah. That's right.
Only you won, because when you get home with your flat pack from IKEA, no one goes for the flathead screwdriver anymore. That's your Betamax. The Greg Phillips head screwdriver is the preferred usage, and
I think it's more your Allen key. That might be Alan Phillips, Greg's brother.
Yeah, it is. That's right. Yeah, Alan.
Yeah. Probably Alan's that played for Australia as well.
Alan Phillips.
Daughter.
Oh, well, yeah. Alan Jones, but we won't go there. But anyway,
for Australia.
He did. Well, he did. That's right. He applied. I think we all know.
Give it up.
I think we all know what you're insinuating, Greg Phillips. 27 Smith Street, Collingwood. Phone number 0427
Nothing to do with us, Greg.
Yeah.
You want to disrespect, and the man is not guilty in a court of law yet, and here you go accusing him of typical. And actually, Paul from Noise magazine told us it'd be like this.
Yeah.
So how,
You know, the pages of Australian musician are just full of slanderous libel against people like, and I think I think sooner or later somebody is going to set your house alight, Greg.
Exactly, and that's a good point. Now, Greg, I know if we talk about our octo-headed guitar, would we get a full feature splash in Australian musician? Like, I mean, I know you've talked to a lot of musicians, and I assume that's lead guitarists and stuff. And some of those lead guitarists have your double-headed guitar. Now, we actually play the octo-headed guitar, where you've got 8 separate machine heads, etc., and stuff. And it can be quite hard. Like, even a 3-chord song is quite hard to play. There's rumours, by the way, Greg, that there's a 4th chord, but we've never used one. Like, even a 3-chord song is quite hard to play, because when we play the octo-headed guitar, every chord has to be played with a different machine head of the prongs and stuff. Now, surely you're like, I know deep in my bones, Greg, that anyone who's reading Australian musician is the sort of socially competent, sexually successful, financially solvent, and handsome young person that the Australian musician readership is, right? Surely they'd be interested in the whole idea of an octo guitar.
Yeah.
And of course, Paul, Greg, sorry, before you answer that question, and a fine question it was, and it does have an answer. You need to know that the Tism octo guitar, each of the 8 necks have exactly the same number of strings on them, and tuned exactly the same way, and sound the same. That is the key to the octo guitar.
Anything else would be just pretentious, I think, Humphrey.
Well, it would, yeah. It's really guitar for the modern person.
Yeah,
exactly. And funnily enough, though, each of the necks is produced by a different guitar manufacturer. Right. We have Gibson necks and various Japanese necks and stuff. And so, the one can play mainly the neck of the guitar that most fits your income bracket. That's where it's the guitar of the people. That's where it's the guitar of Greg, because you can play the same guitar as someone that can afford the best Gibson. You can't play it much because you're quite contractually confined to just the neck that you can afford in the Tism octo neck guitar. But there's something, I think, to be said for a young boy just starting out in rock and roll, and after Alan, he goes down the road and buys his octo neck guitar. Now, that's a Christmas message for us all.
Yeah. So do you find that you go through a lot of guitar techs because of the complexities of the guitar?
Absolutely, Greg. It's a very hard job. I mean, we ask our guitar techs to make sure that the octo neck guitar transmits to 8 different countries. So when you play on neck number 2, that's being heard in Japan, only in Japan, exclusivity, and neck number 5 might be beaming its way out to, Patagonia. And the tremendously stressful thing for guitar techs.
That's right. I think, Humphrey, what really pushes them over the edge is when we have a song like Death to Art, where we have a twin guitar attack. So it's 2 octo neck guitars making a total of 16 necks and stuff. We've had guitar techs that have just quite managed the octo neck guitar, but when we're playing the twin guitar attack, that drives them spare. I think it's fair to say it's almost an abusive work practice, rather like working.
So, does the guitar have a large pedal board, or do the pedals just get in the way of the tone of the natural guitar?
The audience operates the pedals. They pump air into the actual the cadaver of the guitar tech, whose arms move much like the rug sail balloon, in a manner that kind of prepares the guitar for the guitarist But yes, we're a very egalitarian band in that sense, Greg. We like the audience to operate the pedals of Tism's show because really we don't know what the fuck we're doing, Greg, and I think you're getting a sense of that.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Now, Greg, I don't know about you, but guitar solos just sort of suck, don't they? I'm not sure how this this convention in guitar rock music built up, but has there ever been like a guitar solo is mainly wait 16 bars until the song starts again. It's a bit like the ads on YouTube. There should be a skip button to skip over guitar solos. Like, for fuck's sake. Like, so someone can go, like, who cares? Like, I don't care about trapeze artists either. Like, just play the motherfucking chords. Like, it's so heteronormative, so masculine. It's such a hierarchical thing for a male to be fiddling with what is quite obviously his phallic symbol, and we're all looking at it. It makes me wretch. It makes me wretch, Greg.
Oh, what about drum solos?
Well, they're completely different, of course. Drum solo is very important. It's an important dialogue with the audience. The drum solo speaks in a way that all of us understand, whereas the guitar solo, I think, is very much just the guitarist has an opportunity to do some practice in the middle of a fucking song, for Christ's sake. I mean, imagine, a football game and, one team is heading towards goal, the crowd is roaring, and just before the final pass onto the chest of the onrushing full forward, everyone stops and does 20 press-ups. That's what a guitar solo is. It's a complete coitus interruptus. And I think you should ban every guitarist from now on who has played a solo in their entire life.
From the pages of Australian Musician.
Yes, we think you should change your magazine's format to Australian Air Musician. I think that that would obviously increase your readership a millionfold overnight.
What would be the business? What's the business model of Australian Air Musician, Humphrey?
Well, I think that's pretty much anyone who can't play a musical instrument is featured in that, which means that that obviously means that Tism would be involved, and but it's an everyman kind of magazine, Australian Air Musician, and let's face it, we could dispense with even articles or pictures. It could just be completely in everyone's minds.
Like a virtual. You're saying like a virtual mag, Humphrey.
Yes, and like dispense with the corporeal and just make Australian Air Musician has such a sort of a levitational quality to it.
It does. It's ethereal, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think obviously it would change. Your Tommy Emmanuels and stuff. They would have to stop playing guitar and take up plumbing. Which I think would be useful for our society, and
Australian Plumber is
Plumber,
a marvelous publication. Australian Plumber.
Yeah, I think been featured in the latest issue of that one, but I think Daniel Ek, the head of Spotify, would be very happy with Australian Air Musician, because I think he isn't quite aware that musicians actually exist as a concept. He's more interested in content, and so much content you could produce if it was completely virtual and in fact never written or even thought about, just existing like a cloud.
Greg, what I'm finding here is that we've given you very little to work with. Like, how on earth could you, from this this verbal morass, this quagmire of nonsense, you're not going to be able to get an article. So our final advice to you, it being time, I'm afraid, for this to end, is could you just write a diatribe about Paul Cashmere? Like, he's two-faced, he's fat, he doesn't read. You've at least got books behind you. That has got CDs, right? I assume he writes his articles with crayon, right? So just forget the Tism thing, forget all this nonsense. Just here's Australian musicians' latest splash, the truth about Kashmir.
Yeah. Actually, just before you go, I wanted to have one dig at you guys. When I was working at Duke magazine, we were kind enough to give you a front cover, and you disrespected the writer, the late great Stephen Walker, who went to the trouble of writing a glowing article, and you basically graffitied the whole thing.
That's terrible, isn't it? Well, you could get away with that in the old days of print. And Stephen, of course, God rest his soul, was prepared to be shat upon, which I think your modern journalist doesn't understand, nor indeed many of the plaintiffs in the coming up. You said that, by the way, Greg. I didn't say that.
On that note, I thank you for showing up, and I wish you well.